Section 8.1 is basic integration rules, and this is a refresher in some sense, and I know that we've been doing some integration along the way, and at some points I've even been saying you really don't have very many tools yet, and you'll understand more why I say that once we get further into Chapter 8. But you do actually have several tools. So we're going to look at the tools that you do have in this section. We're going to talk about the antiderivative sheet that you have a little bit as well from your antiderivative properties and rules that you have that we've been working through the semester. So these are the rules that you have, or the tools, if you will, that you actually have so far. So we have this integration worksheet that you've been filling out along the way. It's got about 20 or so on there of antiderivative rules. So those are ones that we should know for the most part. In terms of for exams, I've allowed you to have that with you. For the antiderivative gateway, you won't have that with you. So it would be a good idea to make sure that you've remembered those. Obviously, use substitution keeps coming back up over and over and over again, and it will continue to do so. The Trig rules kind of take us by surprise a little bit as they come up. In fact, some of you were working on the board last time, and I was like, when I look at that, I see an Trig rule, and you were like, oh yeah, those. Okay, so we do have those Trig rules. Algebraic simplification can sometimes be extraordinarily helpful. Maybe it's a matter of just distributing two values through each other, so like foiling. Or maybe it's a matter of simplifying, because you're dividing by x squared. We'll just divide each of the terms by x squared, something like that. Completing the square can be useful, especially when in conjunction with the Trig rules, right? Getting something that looks like 1 plus x squared on the denominator or something like that can be quite useful. Long division with improper fractions. Do you guys remember long division? Yeah, it's actually a useful tool as well. We'll see it come up a little bit. And then the last one is Trig Identities. And I had you print off Trig Identities because we are going to see these used off and on throughout. These are all the Trig Identities that I use when I teach Trig. So this is where this sheet actually came from. These are all the Trig Identities basically from Trig. Some of them obviously are ones that we don't see used frequently, and others of them we see used quite frequently. The first three, quotient, reciprocal, and Pythagorean, are just ones that you really kind of should memorize because they just come up and they're useful quite a bit. Even in odd identities, cofunction identities, those aren't extraordinarily useful. I mean, we don't use them frequently in calculus. The sum and difference rules, the double angle, half angle, product to sum, and sum to product, we'll see used more throughout Chapter 8. Again, it's not something that you have to memorize. I'm not expecting you to memorize all these Trig identities, okay? But use this when you're using all of your other tools as you're thinking about how can I take an antiderivative of this particular function. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to actually have you go up to the boards. Because the best way that you're going to remember how to do antiderivatives for some of these ones that we don't see used as frequently as others is when you encounter them and you're like looking at them and you're going, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, and I come around and I say, remember long division, you're going to be like, oh yeah. Okay, so we're going to give that a try. So find yourself a partner and we'll get started.